A billionaire in disguise walked into a burger joint and placed a simple order. The black waiter, who served him, would later hand over a bill that left him stunned. "Table 15 isn't paying." "Just look at his face," whispered manager Kevin to hostess, loud enough for the man in the plain shirt and cap to hear as he stepped inside Golden Burger, Atlanta's most famous burger spot. That man was Alex Thompson, 42 years old, who never thought he would be treated like a troublemaker inside the very empire he had built. Dressed like a construction worker, with messy hair and stubble, nobody could recognize him as the billionaire owner of a chain worth $200 million a year. The hostess, Melissa, gave him a fake smile, the kind she saved for problem customers. "How many?" she asked coldly, already pointing him to the worst seat in the place, a cramped table near the bathroom wall, where flushing toilets drowned out conversations. Alex hadn't come by accident. Earlier, an anonymous message had been sent to the company's website, claiming there was racial discrimination happening at this very branch on Peachtree Street, his flagship restaurant. As CEO, Alex could have easily sent in investigators or fired managers, but the desperation in that message made him want to see it with his own eyes. "One," he answered, disguising his voice with an accent he had practiced, copying the tone of the working-class neighborhood he had grown up in before becoming wealthy. As he walked to the hidden table, Alex studied how others were treated. A white couple, well-dressed, was warmly greeted by Kevin himself and shown to the best seats by the street view. A Hispanic family, however, had to wait 15 minutes before anyone bothered to notice them. And when they were finally seated, it was at a noisy table near the kitchen. Kevin then looked at Alex with irritation. "A waiter will be with you shortly," he lied, while Alex clearly saw every employee deliberately avoiding his table. That's when Jerome Washington, a 23-year-old black waiter, finally approached him with a genuine smile, a rare kindness in that hostile environment. There was something special about Jerome, a quiet dignity that no uniform could hide, and a sharpness in his eyes Alex couldn't ignore. "Good afternoon, sir." "Sorry for the wait," Jerome said politely, though Alex knew it wasn't his fault. "What can I get you?" Alex ordered a classic burger and fries, but while he waited, he noticed how Jerome was treated by the others, mocked, pushed, and shouted at as if he were invisible. Jerome handled it all with a calm patience that only came from years of putting up with humiliation. When the food finally arrived, 25 minutes later, Jerome's hands trembled slightly, not from nerves, but from something deeper, maybe anger, maybe fear. "Here's your order, sir," he said, placing the plate down along with napkins. But Alex quickly noticed something hidden beneath them, a small folded note. Jerome slipped away fast, but whispered almost too softly to hear, "Read it when you're alone." Alex pretended to eat for a while, before carefully unfolding the paper. What he read made his blood run cold. "They don't know who you are, but he does, and he needs your help before it's too late." In that moment, Alex realized this wasn't just about unfair treatment in a restaurant. Something far bigger and darker was happening right under his nose. Jerome finally revealed the truth. Kevin wasn't just being unfair. He was stealing from the restaurant and using discrimination as a cover. He changes the sales numbers after closing, Jerome explained, showing proof on his phone. He takes money straight from the register, then blames black employees for mistakes that never happened. For people have already been fired this way, and each time he finds a way to avoid paying severance. Alex studied the evidence. Screenshots showing late-night system edits. Photos of Kevin opening the safe when he thought nobody was watching. Audio clips of him trash-talking black workers to prejudice customers. "Why didn't you report this to HR?" Alex asked. Jerome let out a bitter laugh. "Do you really think corporate would take the word of a black waiter over a white manager who's been here 15 years, especially when Kevin has friends in high places?" The words hit Alex hard. He had built his business on values of fairness and respect. Yet here was proof that people like Kevin were poisoning his empire, turning it into something ugly. "There's more," Jerome continued. "Kevin knows I've been gathering evidence. Yesterday he threatened me, said if I caused trouble, I'd never work in Atlanta again." Alex looked at the 23-year-old, realizing how much he was risking. Jerome had nothing to gain, yet he was standing up against injustice anyway. But why? Alex asked, "Why risk so much?" Jerome stared at the city lights for a long moment before speaking. "My mom cleaned offices for 30 years. She never complained, never fought back, just stayed in her place. She died earning the same pitiful salary she started with. At her funeral, I promised myself that if I ever got the chance to fight the system, I would, even if I had to do it alone." Alex saw himself reflected in Jerome. Young, poor, and facing discrimination early in life. He too had once vowed to change things if he ever gained power. Somewhere along the way, though, success had made him distant from the struggles of ordinary workers. "Kevin doesn't know you're the owner, right?" Jerome asked. "He has no idea," Alex replied. "Good," Jerome said with a sharp smile. "That means we have the upper hand. He'll keep treating me like garbage and ignoring you, never realizing he's digging his own grave." That's when Alex understood. Jerome wasn't just a victim asking for help. He was a strategist, someone who had been building a case piece by piece, waiting for the right moment to strike. "So, what's the plan?" Alex asked. "Tomorrow, Kevin will pull his boldest move yet," Jerome explained. "He's going to skim $1,200 from last night's corporate party and pin it on me. But this time, I'll catch him in the act. All I need is a witness I can trust." Alex studied Jerome, admiring his courage. This was exactly how his own journey had started years ago, a low-level worker spotting corruption and deciding to act. But unlike the past, Alex now had the power to make sure justice was served. "Jerome," Alex said firmly, "you won't face this alone." Kevin had no idea that every cruel order, every act of prejudice, was being carefully documented. And soon, the trap would close with no escape. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply letting your enemy hang himself with his own rope. The next morning, Alex returned to Golden Burger dressed as an air conditioning repairman, carrying a borrowed toolbox. Nobody looked twice. To Kevin, maintenance workers were even more invisible than suspicious customers. Jerome had come in early to set everything up. Hidden inside the employee bathroom, he had placed a tiny button-sized camera aimed at the safe. The device came from Alex's security company, one of the many businesses he owned quietly alongside his restaurants. "Today is the day," Jerome whispered as they pretended to chat about cooling issues. The timing was perfect. The Johnson and Associates corporate party had brought in $1,200 a night before, money Kevin planned to erase from the records. Alex peeked through a half-open door. Kevin was restless, sweating and glued to his phone. It was obvious he was about to pull off his biggest theft yet. "Are you sure he'll blame you?" Alex asked quietly. Jerome gave a knowing smirk. "He's already started. Yesterday he told staff I was acting strange, said I might be desperate for cash. That's always his move. Spread a story first, then commit the scam." At 2 p.m., Jerome's sister, Kesha Washington, walked in. Kevin thought she was there for a normal audit from the finance department. What he didn't know was that she had volunteered after learning what was happening to her brother. Kesha was everything Jerome hadn't yet had the chance to become, a Georgia Tech graduate with 5 years of corporate finance experience, respected by executives and unafraid to challenge injustice. But Kesha had never forgotten her roots, and family loyalty mattered more than any corporate rule. "Mr. Herrera," she greeted Kevin with flawless professionalism. "I'm here for the quarterly review of your records. I trust everything is ready." Kevin forced a smile. Of course. All the documents are in the back room. Feel free to check them." What he didn't know was that Kesha had brought advanced tools that could detect digital tampering in sales systems. Every alteration left invisible traces, invisible to most, but obvious to someone trained like her. Meanwhile, Alex stayed in character as a repairman, discreetly setting up hidden monitoring devices around the restaurant. His plan went further than Kevin could ever imagine. Not just to catch theft, but to expose a whole culture of discrimination and corruption. At 3:30 p.m., Kevin called out, "Jerome, I need you to count the cash in the safe. There were some discrepancies last night." It was exactly the moment they had prepared for. Jerome walked to the safe, now fully aware he was being filmed by multiple hidden cameras. Slowly, he counted the bills out loud so the microphones could pick everything up. $15,342. Jerome reported clearly. Kevin jotted something down, but through the hidden lens, Alex could see the truth. Kevin wrote a completely different number, $13,142. A fake discrepancy of $2,200. More than the $1,200 from the corporate party. He's even bolder than we thought, Alex whispered to Jerome later during a break. He's inventing bigger numbers to justify firing you along with stealing the cash. Jerome clenched his fists. He doesn't just want to rob me. He wants to ruin me, make sure I can't get work anywhere again. That will only make his downfall sweeter, Alex replied coldly, surprising even Jerome with the edge in his voice. Stick to the plan. Your sister is recording everything. And she was... Kesha uncovered far more than a single theft. The system showed a 3-year trail of tampered records, always during shifts run by black employees, always in amounts just suspicious enough to justify firing them. Mr. Herrera, Kesha called, keeping her tone professional. I need clarification on these irregular sales entries. Could you explain them to me? Kevin's face went pale. What changes? I don't know what you mean. The records are automatic. Interesting, Kesha replied, turning the screen toward him. Because here it shows someone using your administrator password to manually alter 17 transactions just last week. Kevin stammered. That must be a system error. Or maybe an employee got hold of my password somehow. Kesha tilted her head. Which employee would know your personal password? Kevin's eyes went straight to Jerome. Well, some people here can't be trusted, especially those who might be under financial stress. It was exactly the setup they needed. Kevin was digging his own grave, weaving a racist story that would sound devastating once made public. Alex, watching from the van outside, saw everything in high definition. Every word, every sneer, every ugly glance. Kevin leaned in, whispering to Kesha as if sharing a secret. Between us, some employees come from backgrounds where dishonesty is normal, especially Jerome. I'm sure he's behind all this. Probably learned it from the environment he grew up in. Jerome, hearing it all through the hidden earpiece, fought to keep his face calm. Each hateful word was another piece of evidence trapping Kevin tighter. Indeed, Kesha said smoothly, hiding her anger. Those are very serious claims. It would be terrible if one of our staff was stealing. Kevin smirked, thinking he had her convinced. Exactly. And especially disappointing when it's someone the company gave a chance to, despite, well, you know. By 5 p.m., Kevin made his final move. He called Jerome into the office in front of staff, with Kesha still present. Jerome, he said with false seriousness, I need to inform you of a very serious matter. The audits reveal cash shortages, always on your shifts. Jerome widened his eyes in shock, playing his role perfectly. What shortages? $2. 200's gone missing this week alone, Kevin declared. And unfortunately, the evidence points to you. Gasps rose among the employees. Some looked genuinely surprised. Others avoided eye contact, knowing it was a lie but too afraid to speak. I would never steal. Jerome protested, his voice steady, his outrage convincing, and all of it captured on camera. The police will be called, Kevin announced loudly. I cannot allow a thief to stay in this business. And that's when Alex made his move. He set down the air conditioning unit he'd been fixing and walked toward the group with an authority that made Kevin instinctively back up. Sorry to interrupt, Alex said, his voice cutting through the room, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. Kevin waved him off, irritated. You're just a repair guy. This doesn't concern you. Alex gave a slow, cold smile. Actually, Kevin, this concerns me more than anyone here. Kevin frowned. And why is that? Alex reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet, and revealed his ID. I'm Alex Thompson, the owner of this company, Alex said firmly, and you just made the most costly mistake of your life. Jerome acted surprised, though his eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Kesha stayed professional, but Alex noticed the pride shining in her face. You're, Kevin stuttered. The man you treated like dirt yesterday. Alex cut in. The customer you shoved into the worst seat by the bathroom. the technician you ignore while plotting to ruin an innocent man's life. Kevin's eyes darted around the room, searching for a way out, but there was none. Every racist remark, every fraudulent act, every stolen dollar had been captured in detail. And Kevin had no idea that this was just a start. Alex had spent 3 days building evidence. Enough not only to end Kevin's career, but to turn his arrogance into a public humiliation he'd never escape. Jerome, the waiter Kevin had tried to crush, was about to become the center of revenge so precise it would redefine what justice meant. The restaurant went silent. Alex could hear his own heartbeat. Kevin froze, his arrogance melting away. You can't be," Kevin muttered, before his words died when Kesha stepped forward with a tablet. "Kevin Herrera," she announced with authority, "on behalf of Thompson Industries, you are terminated for theft, racial discrimination, and falsifying company records." Kevin collapsed against the wall. Just minutes earlier, he had been preparing to destroy Jerome. Now, he was barely holding himself upright. "Kesha, show everyone," Alex instructed. On the tablet, evidence appeared one after another. Video of Kevin changing sales records, photos of him stealing from the safe, and worst of all, recordings of him making racist remarks to customers. "Here's a recording from last night," Kesha said, pressing play. Kevin's voice filled the room. "These black employees are all the same. I give them jobs out of pity, but they always end up stealing. It's in their nature." Gasps spread through the crowd. Some employees had long suspected his behavior. Now the truth was undeniable. "In 3 years," Alex continued calmly, "you've stolen $27,000 from this company. You fired 12 black employees on false charges. And you poisoned this workplace with hate. You can't prove this." Kevin shouted desperately, "Those recordings are fake." Jerome finally spoke, his voice steady and sharp. "You forgot something, Kevin." Kevin scowled. "What?" Jerome smiled for the first time. "The security cameras you installed, they record sound. I've had access to those files for weeks." Kevin's face went pale. The very tools he used to oppress others had now become the proof of his downfall. "And just so you know," Alex added, "our lawyers already filed charges. The police are on their way." Kevin searched the room for support, but the same employees who once obeyed him out of fear now looked at him with disgust. "Mr. Thompson," Kevin begged, "we can work this out. I'll give the money back. I'll resign quietly. Please, don't make this public." Alex's voice dropped, cold and sharp. "You tried to destroy Jerome's life without a second thought. You stole from me and spread your poison in my restaurant. Now you'll face the consequences." He leaned closer. "Your name, your crimes, and your face will be known in every restaurant in this city. You'll never work in this industry again." Sirens grew louder outside. Jerome stepped forward. "Remember when you said I'd never get another job if I caused trouble? Looks like you're the one who'll never work again." Moments later, the police entered and cuffed Kevin. He wept like a child, begging for mercy, the same mercy he never gave his employees. "Mr. Thompson," one worker said nervously, we didn't know. Some of us suspected, but..." "I understand," Alex replied gently. Kevin built an environment where people were too afraid to speak. "That ends today." As Kevin was led away in handcuffs, he screamed, "This can't be happening. I worked here for 15 years. "And for 15 years, you abused the trust placed in you," Alex replied coldly. "Now you'll have the rest of your life to think about it." Turning to Jerome, Alex asked, "Jerome, will you take the position of manager for this restaurant?" The room erupted in applause. Jerome stood frozen, overwhelmed. His life had changed in an instant, but Alex wasn't done. He was about to learn something about Jerome that would change not just his restaurant, but the future of his entire company. 6 months later, Golden Burger looked completely different. Jerome had transformed the place into a respectful, welcoming space. Employees smiled for real. Customers of every background were treated equally, and sales had jumped by 40%. "Mr. Washington, more resumes came in for trainee managers," Kesha said, now serving as HR director for Thompson Industries' Southeastern region. Jerome smiled, glancing out the window of what used to be Kevin's office. His first move as manager had been to remove the isolated desk by the restrooms and create an open, family-friendly space. Alex entered with 2 coffees. "How's my new regional director settling in?" Jerome chuckled. Just a week ago, he'd been promoted again, this time to oversee 23 restaurants. Still feels unreal. Some mornings, I think it's just a dream. "And Kevin?" Alex asked. "Bankrupt. Sued by a dozen companies. Not a single restaurant in Atlanta will look at his resume," Jerome said calmly. "Sometimes he shows up here, begging for a chance." Alex smirked. "Ironic, isn't it?" Jerome nodded. "You know what the best revenge was? Not his arrest. Not his downfall. It was proving that when you treat people with dignity, they rise higher than any prejudice could ever hold them down. Kevin tried to break me, but in the end, he only destroyed himself." Jerome had learned that true justice isn't about revenge. It's about building success your enemies can never touch.